I was on the highway when my phone buzzed. It was 4:58 p.m. Tuesday, November 25th. The dashboard clock glowed faint amber in the late autumn light, my hands warm around the steering wheel. I was driving toward the coastal villa mine once signed over for my daughter and her husband. The ocean breeze flicked dust off the windshield. The radio murmured softly low-budget jazz on an old FM station. The trunk behind me held a mini frozen turkey, 2 slices of pumpkin pie from the corner bakery, and 4 cheap bottles of wine. Nothing luxurious, just tangible warmth, chosen carefully, carried like proof that holidays are conversations you show up for, not invoices you send. 9 hours earlier, I had started the day with coffee at home, 2 spoons of sugar, oat milk, the scent of cinnamon that clings to your sleeve if you lean too close to the steam. Then I packed the groceries, checked the forecast, 5 degrees in a few northern pockets, 42 degrees, where I was heading. Cold, yes, but bearable. A proper jacket would have been enough. I had one on the passenger seat next to me, folded. The leather folder with the villa deed sat underneath it, heavy, precise, and sealed by the law. But back then it was just cargo, not conviction. I had been driving in silence for a while. No dramatic soundtrack, no swelling music. Just the sound of tires on asphalt, steady and rhythmic. The pacing of life when it is not cracked yet. A real beat, not an edited one. Then I saw the gas station sign, Shell Oval, glowing against winter gray. I took exit 32B and rolled in. The air smelled like fuel and hot pretzels. Very ordinary. The kind of place where nothing cinematic ever seems prepared to happen until it does. I parked and stepped out. The temperature slapped my cheeks lightly, not violently, more brisk than brutal. The idle hum of passing cars behind me blended with the faint mechanical drone of a donation bin rattling beside the convenience store door. Someone was stuffing coins for charity into a cup. A teenage cashier was stacking ice bags. A trucker was buying water. Another was checking lottery scratch tickets. These details were normal, almost invisible. The script of suburbia humming without me. I grabbed the fuel nozzle. My gloves creaked against rubber as I hooked the pump. The digital board blinked Zarada, waiting for the first drop. My boots scraped faint gravel. Then buzz. My phone in the jacket pocket. I pulled it out with my bare hand, my thumb smudged against the screen. The brightness punched into my eyes. The message from my daughter lit up like a sealed verdict delivered too early. Mom, I know you bought us a villa, but my mother-in-law does not want you at Thanksgiving, and from now on, please do not come anymore. The fuel hissed. My hand shook just enough to wrestle reality back into my body. A micro tremor. Not a breakdown. Just the body realizing the floor moved. My vision blurred slightly. The pump kept screaming numbers, gallons, flowing cents ticking. People walked past me without knowing they were extras in a moment that charged interest. A driver walked by holding 2 coffees, joking with her partner about burnt toast. A truck door slammed behind me, metallic, rhythmic final. A propane delivery van roared in its engine growl, thick and comedic in contrast to my sudden silence. The station was alive, warm even in the cold, but I felt like I had been unplugged, like someone pulled the power cable from a machine that was still technically running. I muttered under my breath, first so low that the steam from the coffee holders nearby drowned it. A line only the narrator hears first. Then the sentence emerged more solid, spoken aloud just once, a natural utterance, like a gritted tooth pressed into grammar. You'll all pay for disrespecting your elder. Not spontaneous foolishness, not theatrical menace. It was a release valve I never got to touch at the dinner table. I clicked the nozzle shut. The pump handle jerked slightly like a period the world could pronounce. I stepped toward my car, my door shut softer than the injustice itself, not slammed, just decided. I pulled back onto the highway, cutting into 6:12 p.m. twilight. My city sat behind me like a former chapter. The car heater hummed. My palm still held a ghost vibration of disconnect. The pacing slowed. A truck passed me honking lightly at a pothole. Comedic irritation, exaggerated and harmless, how odd comedy feels when your world is cracking. The windshield wipers moved like punctuation marks, wiping away sentimentality. I spotted a roadside diner, warm neon that glowed defiant orange. I almost pulled in, but I drove past it. Hunger was not the climax. Realization was. When I arrived home at 9:37 p.m., I did not break. I set the turkey into the freezer. I placed the wine on the counter, then I sat in my tiny kitchen, very quiet, eating reheated soup potatoes, black pepper, no garnish, no witness. The fridge rattled, not me. I stood and opened the cabinet where I kept the villa folder. The legal deed, the mortgage documents, the insurance policies I had fronted, the transfers I never got thanked for. Wordless, auditable. Let the paperwork speak. I whispered it without speaking it, an echo only I understood at the time. I closed the cabinet and felt the silence of freedom settle. The stillness after the storm text, the calm before the takedown no one yet expects. At 5:12 a.m. the next morning, I unlocked the folder, the legal documents stacked like compressed years of my financial sacrifice. 20 pages, 10 signatures, one claimant me. The turkey outside was cold, the table inside was warm, but the real draft was always archived in my cabinet. I brewed coffee again, long inhale, short exhale, human cadence. The pacing shifted from chaos to control. Then I said the sentence that ended the first chapter and opened every legal lane forward. The day they unplugged me wasn't their beginning. It was mine. I exhaled. The episode ended. The station behind me was still running, but I was standing in a story they could no longer rewrite. A storm was coming. But so was clarity, and clarity, unlike drama, never needs loud sound to dominate. I took the villa back in silence the next day, but the script of that reclaim did not begin at the courthouse or notary or deadlines. It began right there with fuel still hissing, coffee steam rising, and one text that underestimated a woman who audited every dollar before she acted. I thought the scene cut me off. Instead, it cued me in. The night after the gas station, I sat at my kitchen table with the villa folder open. The papers lay in front of me like a timeline. They did not care about Thanksgiving texts or hurt feelings. They only cared about signatures, dates, and numbers. Looking at them pulled me backward. My life re-ran in simple, unglamorous scenes. Before I was the woman who bought a villa, I was just a tired shift worker. For 28 years, I worked as a hospital nurse in a city clinic. I changed dressings, checked vitals, and held hands when families could not be there. My back ached most nights. My feet burned in cheap sneakers bought on sale. My husband Robert drove delivery trucks. His hands always smelled like cardboard and gasoline at the same time. We did not have luxury, but we had a system. He covered the mortgage and utilities. I covered groceries, school supplies, and emergencies. Then, one January morning, his truck hit black ice on a county road. The call came during my lunch break. My soup went cold in my hands. The company insurance officer met me 2 weeks later in a gray office. He slid a folder across the table with numbers that did not understand grief. The payout was modest. Not enough to be rich, but more than our savings. I went back to work after the funeral. I did not take many days. Bills did not pause. Grief did not pay interest. I picked up overtime shifts, nights and weekends, because overtime paid an extra few dollars. I learned to live on coffee and leftover cafeteria sandwiches. I checked my retirement account online and forced myself to keep contributing. My daughter Amanda grew up walking hospital hallways when childcare fell through. She did homework in the staff lounge while I checked on patients. She saw me nap in the car between double shifts. She heard me say, "We cannot afford that more times than I liked." I packed her lunches in discount containers and prayed her shoes lasted one more semester. College application day felt like a personal exam. When her acceptance letter arrived, I cried in the parking lot outside the mailbox store. I told myself every extra shift had been worth it. Amanda was bright quick with words and always a little embarrassed by my uniform. She corrected my grammar once at the dinner table. Her cheeks flushed when she realized she had done it. Still, I saw something shift that day, admiration bending into quiet distance. She met Brian in her senior year. His parents owned a small construction company that had recently expanded. They spoke easily about investments, renovations, and upgrading neighborhoods. At our first dinner together, his mother scanned my shoes before my face. "Such a demanding job," she said. "Nursing is very noble." She smiled in a way that felt like a polite dismissal. After they married, I felt the balance tilting. Amanda called less for advice and more for financial help. Her messages usually began with, "Mom, can you help us with something small?" Small often meant 3 mortgage payments or a new water heater. Then came the villa conversation. Brian's company had a chance to buy a distressed property near the coast, a small resort town not glamorous but charming enough for summer rentals. The listing was for a weathered villa with good bones and bad paint. "We could turn it into a family place," Amanda said over Sunday lunch. She waved her phone, showing me photos of peeling shutters and a cracked pool. "Imagine Thanksgiving there. All of us together, your grandkids running around someday." Brian's mother stirred her tea. She did not look at me. "Our side of the family has always loved the coast," she said. "It would be nice to have a place that feels like our base." I listened and did the math quietly. I had equity in my little old house. I had Robert's insurance money still mostly untouched. I had a retirement account that could be tapped with penalties if needed. That night, I spread my finances across the table. Property tax statements, mortgage balance, retirement statements, and the insurance summary surrounded my cold coffee. There was nothing glamorous there, only receipts of decades spent saying no to myself. A week later, I met with a loan officer at the bank. He wore a tie with tiny sailboats and spoke in careful, patient sentences. He reviewed my assets, my age, and my income. "You can do this," he said, "but you must keep your name on the title. Joint ownership protects you. It also adds stability for the bank. We structured it carefully. I sold my old house and moved into a small rental apartment. I used a large portion of Robert's insurance as down payment. We combined that with a manageable mortgage signed by both me and the young couple. My retirement stayed mostly intact. I only took a small portion to cover closing costs. The day we closed on the villa, the sky over the coast was pale blue. The air smelled like salt sunscreen and barbecued fish from a nearby shack. The real estate agent handed me a heavy ring of keys. "Congratulations," she said. "This place will make a lot of memories." I did not see an investment. I saw a long table under string lights, grandkids chasing each other with sparklers. I saw Amanda laughing without watching the clock or her bank balance. I called it our holiday house in every sentence. When we first walked through the villa, Amanda twirled in the empty living room. "The kitchen needs a full remodel," Brian said, "but the bones are good." His mother stood near the window inspecting the neighborhood quietly. Then she turned to Amanda, not to me. "You have done well," she told her daughter-in-law. "Now you have a real family home with us." She stressed the word real like a line under a sentence. I felt it land between us like a dropped fork on china. I dismissed it then. I told myself people speak poorly when they feel competitive. I focused on the sound of waves instead. The first Thanksgiving, there was small but warm. I brought my pumpkin pie, still slightly cracked in the center. Brian's mother brought an expensive wine I could not pronounce. We ate at a folding table because the dining set had not arrived yet. Everyone laughed when the wind slammed a door upstairs. Later, as we washed dishes, I heard them in the next room. His mother said in a low voice, "You belong with your real family now. We will take care of you. She has done enough." Amanda did not protest. She just hummed in agreement. A few months after that, the first crack in the deed conversation appeared. We were sitting in the villa kitchen, paperwork spread around us again. Brian traced the edge of the property map with his finger. "Mom," he began. He had started calling me that after the wedding. "It might be simpler if the house was just in our names." He glanced at his mother. She did not hide her approval. "Lenders and buyers like clean titles. It is just neater," she added. Amanda sat between us silent. She fiddled with her phone, avoiding my eyes. My chest tightened, but my voice stayed calm. "I talked to the bank," I said. "They advised keeping my name on the deed. It protects us all. It keeps the structure stable." Brian's expression stiffened. His mother's smile thinned. "It is not about you," she said. "It is just paperwork. Family does not need legal strings." I heard Robert's voice in my memory. "Get it in writing. Keep your name where your money lives." I folded the deed slowly and slid it back into my folder. "I will keep the current structure," I said. "If this is our family house, my name stays where my money stands." The room cooled by a few degrees. Amanda finally looked up. Confusion and discomfort flickered across her face. The argument fizzled, not exploded. No plates were thrown, no doors were slammed. We simply moved on to another topic. They never stopped using the villa. They only stopped thanking me. Now, years later, I looked at that same deed under my kitchen light. The ink had not faded. The signatures still held. One thought settled over everything like a final layer of varnish. The one decision I did not follow them on, the one no in a lifetime of yes, would later save me. In the weeks before that Thanksgiving text, the villa felt almost like a divided country. On the maps, we shared it. In practice, I did not. I was there often, but not as a guest. I arrived early to cook. I left late after cleaning. When Amanda messaged, it was usually the same pattern. "Mom, can you come help with the kids this weekend? Mom, we are having people over. Can you cook that chicken you make?" I would drive down with casserole dishes and grocery bags. The trunk would be full, but my place at the table felt smaller each time. The first little sign came one summer barbecue. The deck smelled like grilled meat and expensive sunscreen. Brian's friends joked about investment properties and interest rates. I stood at the sink inside, rinsing lettuce leaves, my hands in cold water. Amanda walked in, checking her lipstick in the microwave door. "Mom, can you keep the stories about the hospital short tonight?" she said. "We are all tired. People want light conversation." She said it softly, like a suggestion. It still landed like a rule. I swallowed my reply with a sip of tap water. I used to tell her funny nurse stories, patients who flirted during blood pressure checks. Now those stories were classified as burdens. At another gathering, I tried to help Brian with the grill. "Do you need me to chop anything?" I asked. He smiled, polite but distant. "No, you can just relax," he said. Then he handed me a trash bag and pointed at the empty bottles. "Maybe help tidy up a bit. You are so good at that." I tied the bag slowly, listening to the laughter on the deck. I realized I was always in motion when they were at ease. Sleeping arrangements told their own story. In the beginning, there had been talk of a guest room for me. "We will set up a proper room for you upstairs," Amanda had promised. Years passed, guest rooms filled with workout gear and storage boxes. Meanwhile, whenever I stayed overnight, I slept on the living room sofa. A thin throw blanket, a pillow that smelled faintly of air freshener, not home. One Labor Day weekend, their friends stayed over. Amanda pulled me aside near the stairs. "Mom, is it okay if they take the bedrooms?" she asked. "You do not mind the couch, right? You are used to it." I said yes. I had said yes all my life. My back did not agree, but my voice did. There were also quieter sentences that slipped under the door. Once when new neighbors visited, I heard Amanda in the hallway. They asked who had bought the villa. Brian answered first. "Our family invested in it," he said. "We worked really hard for this place." I waited for Amanda to mention me, to say my mom helped. She is on the deed. She did not. Later, when I teased her about it gently, she stiffened. "Mom, please do not tell people you bought the villa," she said. "They might misunderstand. They might think Brian cannot provide." The logic hurt more than the words. My sacrifice had become a potential embarrassment, not something to honor. Brian's mother reinforced that rewrite every chance she got. She loved the phrase, "their side of the family." I heard it so often it started to feel like a slogan. She organized brunches, Sunday dinners, and just family nights. Sometimes I found out about them from social media photos. Everyone gathered on the patio under string lights. I recognized the furniture I helped pay for. When I asked Amanda about one of those nights, she shrugged. "It was just Brian's side of the family," she said. "Very last minute. You would have been tired anyway. Invitations did come sometimes, but they were shaped like afterthoughts." "Mom, you can come if you want," Amanda would say. Things might be a little crowded, though. I usually went holding homemade food like a ticket at the door. I told myself it was enough just to be near my daughter. One afternoon stays sharp in my mind. I had found a small wooden train set at a thrift store. I cleaned every piece. I checked the wheels carefully. It reminded me of the toys Robert used to love. I wrapped it neatly and carried it to the villa for my grandson. He was 3 and obsessed with anything that moved on tracks. When I arrived, he ran to me in the hallway. "Grandma, did you bring something?" he asked with wide eyes. I smiled and handed him the box. Before he could open it, Brian's mother appeared behind him. She looked at the wrapping like it carried germs. "What is this?" she asked. "A train set," I said. "I found it and thought he would love it." She peeled back the paper, inspecting the wood. "Oh, secondhand," she said. "We try to keep only new things for him." Her tone was smooth. The judgment was sharp. Amanda stood at the doorway. She gave a small, strained laugh. "Mom, you did not have to," she said. "We are trying to keep the playroom minimal. It gets so cluttered." She took the box from my grandson's hands. He looked confused, his fingers still curved around absent edges. "I will put it away for later," she added. Later never came. Weeks afterward, I saw the box high on a closet shelf. Dust gathered on the corners. My grandson did not know it existed. On the drive home that night, I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. I told myself they were just trying to follow new parenting trends. I told myself I should not be sensitive. I had been repeating that sentence for years. Whenever something stung, I reached for excuses. "They are young. They are busy," I said to my bathroom mirror. "As long as they are happy, I can put up with this." I watched dish after dish leave the table with my hands on them. I watched them build a story where I was support staff, not family. The clearest cut came during a small party toward the end of summer. Brian's business partners and their spouses were visiting. The villa was polished, every cushion fluffed, every candle lit. I spent the afternoon in the kitchen prepping appetizers, mini quiches, cheese boards, and a salad that looked more expensive than it cost. By evening, the house smelled like herbs and warm bread. Music played softly. People arrived with gift bags and wine. I moved between the stove and the sink, invisible but essential. At one point, I stepped into the doorway of the living room. Brian stood near the fireplace, a drink in his hand. Amanda rested against the arm of the sofa, smiling. One of the guests asked how they had ended up with such a beautiful villa. "It is a dream place," the woman said. "How did you get it?" Brian answered smoothly without hesitation. "Our family worked really hard," he said. "We built the business up. Now this is the ex-family house." He used his last name like a brand on the front gate. The group nodded, impressed. His mother added her own line, stepping closer to the guests. "We have always believed in giving our children solid foundations," she said. "We worked so hard to make sure they had a place like this." She gestured around the room with quiet pride. "The villa, my sacrifices, my name on the deed, all wrapped inside her narrative." No one looked toward the kitchen doorway. I stood there holding a dish towel, fingers damp and wrinkled. The light from the chandelier did not quite reach me. My chest felt tight, but I kept my face calm. I turned back to the sink and picked up another glass. The conversation in the living room drifted in and out like distant radio static. After everyone left, I wiped crumbs off the counter in slow circles. Amanda thanked me for helping, already half scrolling on her phone. Brian stacked the wine glasses, joking about needing a bigger rack. No one corrected the story told earlier. No one said she helped buy this. She is on the title. I drove home that night with the windows slightly cracked. The highway lights flickered across the dashboard like passing thoughts. That was the night a quieter truth settled in. They were not just forgetting details, they were rewriting history. And in that entire villa, with its polished stone and framed family photos, it turned out I was the only one left who remembered the truth. The night of Thanksgiving, the villa was not on my route anymore. My car turned toward my small rental instead. The sky was already dark when I parked. A neighbor's window glowed warm silhouettes moving around a crowded table. I carried my grocery bags up the stairs alone. Inside, the apartment smelled like nothing yet. No turkey, no spices, no laughter, just the faint scent of cleaning spray and old coffee. I set the mini frozen turkey on the counter. It was meant as an extra for the villa table. Now it was the main event. I preheated the oven. The thermostat clicked like a tiny metronome. The turkey went into a small roasting pan. It looked almost comically undersized, like a prop. I opened one bottle of cheap wine and poured a glass. The liquid hit the glass with a soft, lonely sound. I took a sip. It burned more than it comforted. The television flickered on in the living room. Football filled the room with crowd noise and commentary. Bright helmets and artificial turf glowed under stadium lights. I muted it halfway. I did not want words. I only wanted motion and color, something alive that did not ask anything from me. While the turkey baked, I set the table for one. A plate, a fork, a knife, and a folded paper napkin. I almost put out a second plate out of habit. I stopped myself with a small laugh that did not feel funny. The chair across from me stayed pushed in untouched. The oven timer beeped. I took out the turkey. Its skin was unevenly browned but acceptable. I cut a small slice and added some canned gravy. I sat at the table facing the muted TV. The football crowd waved signs. The camera panned across strangers' families. I chewed slowly, tasting more salt than flavor. I did not sob. Tears did not pour dramatically. Instead, there was a hollow quiet inside my chest, a space where noise used to be. Loneliness in older age is not always loud. Sometimes it feels like sitting at a table with an extra chair, a chair that remembers when it was occupied. I finished my plate and pushed it slightly away. The fork scraped the ceramic with a quick, sharp sound. It echoed too loudly in the small kitchen. My phone lay on the table screen, dark face down. I stared at it for a long moment before touching it. I picked it up and opened the message thread with Amanda. Her last text glared at me. Mom, I know you bought us a villa, but my mother-in-law does not want you at Thanksgiving, and from now on, please do not come anymore. Under it was my reply. You will all pay for disrespecting your elder. I scrolled upward slowly at first. Line after line appeared. Request after request. Mom, can you help with the credit card this month? Mom, daycare is so expensive. Can you watch him 3 days? Mom, the roof repair quote is insane. Can you cover part of it? Mom, the property taxes are due. We are stretched thin right now. Mom, the air conditioner just died. The kids cannot sleep in this heat. Mom, can you send a little extra just this once? There were thank you messages too at the beginning. Short ones with heart emojis and exclamation points. Over time, even those faded. I noticed a pattern. The longest texts were always about money. The shortest texts were about love. I kept scrolling. The whole past year replayed in bank language and casual pleading. I saw myself saying yes again and again. I set the phone down and went to the small desk by the window. The desk was cheap, scratched near the edge. It held my old laptop, a mug of pens, and a stack of envelopes. I opened the drawer and pulled out a folder of recent statements. Property tax receipts, repair invoices, bank printouts, and insurance notices. I spread them across the desk like cards. I turned on the desk lamp. A yellow cone of light fell over the paper. The rest of the room slipped into shadow. I started with the villa property tax statements. 2 years paid in full by me. I circled each amount with a blue pen. Next came the roof repair invoice, water damage along the back corner of the villa. The contractor's logo smiled at me from the page. Amanda had called that night nearly in tears. Mom, if we do not fix it now, it will get worse, she had said. We cannot afford it. Can you help? I had paid the full bill. I circled that amount too. Then the air conditioning replacement. Another high number, another just this once plea. I added it to the growing list in my mind. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The 2-factor code buzzed my phone. I entered it. Numbers loaded on the screen, row after row. I filtered transfers with Amanda's name and Brian's. The list stretched back years. Small amounts, medium amounts, and a few that made my heart pound. I took a notebook from the drawer. Its cover was plain and gray. I opened to a clean page and wrote a title at the top. Money I have given since the villa purchase. I began listing each major transfer by hand. Date description and amount. Property tax, roof air conditioner, emergency, dentist car repairs, holiday help. The numbers lined up marching down the page like a quiet army. My pen pressed harder as the list grew. Halfway down the second page, I paused. My hand ached. My chest felt tight. I added the totals together using the calculator on my phone. The final sum glowed on the screen. It was not just generous, it was devastating. It was nearly everything outside my remaining retirement account. I stared at that number until it blurred. My reflection looked back at me in the dark laptop screen. I saw the nurse who had worked overtime for decades. I thought of Robert's accident, the insurance meeting, and the promises I made myself. I had vowed never to gamble with my future security. Yet here I was, realizing I had done it slowly instead of suddenly. Not at a casino table, but at a family one. A sentence formed in my mind, sharp and clear. I spoke it aloud softly to the empty room. I was not only cut from the table today. I have let them cut away pieces of my own future for years. The truth did not scream. It settled. It sat in the room with me, heavy and undeniable. I looked back at the text from Amanda. From now on, please do not come anymore. She thought she was cutting me off from a holiday. I flipped to the next blank page in my notebook. At the top, I wrote another title. From tonight, what I will no longer pay for. I did not fill it in yet. I only underlined the title twice slowly. The ink lines were steady this time. I closed the bank website and shut the laptop. The room grew quieter, anchored only by the ticking kitchen clock. I gathered the statements into a neat stack and slid them back into the folder. Then I placed the notebook on top, not hidden this time. My daughter had cut me from Thanksgiving. That night, I quietly began cutting them off from something else. Not out of revenge, but out of survival. Out of a late necessary respect for the woman who had funded their comfort. Out of respect for myself. The morning after Thanksgiving, I woke before the alarm. The apartment was gray and quiet. My notebook still lay open on the desk. The numbers I had added the night before felt heavy. They sat under the title like a verdict I had written against myself. For a few minutes, I just watched the light creep across the floor. Old habit told me to make coffee and stay home. New instinct said move. I poured coffee, black, no sugar this time. The bitterness felt honest. I drank half the mug standing up. My notebook page stared back at me. Property taxes, repairs, transfers, just this once. Payments. Years of sacrifice compressed into a single total. I picked up my phone and scrolled through contacts. A name caught my eye. Marjorie upstairs. She had once mentioned a lawyer when her landlord misbehaved. I typed a quick message. Morning, Marjorie. Do you still have that real estate lawyer's number? She replied within minutes. Retired people answer fast. Of course, she wrote. He does family property cases too. Fair and patient. Call him. A phone number followed. I stared at the number for a full minute. My heart thudded with a strange mix of fear and relief. Then I dialed. A receptionist answered with a calm, practiced voice. Law Office of Daniel Price. How can I help you? My name is Simone, I said. I need to talk to someone about a house I co-own with my daughter. She asked a few basic questions. Then she said, we had a cancellation this morning. Can you be here at 10? I looked at the clock on the stove. It was 8:12. I can, I said. I pulled on my nicest sweater. It was not special, but it was clean. I put the villa folder into my tote bag. Then I added my notebook and the latest bank statement. Outside, the air still held Thanksgiving quiet. Fewer cars than usual. A few flags left from yesterday's pride in gratitude. The law office was in a converted brick house near downtown. Not flashy. A simple sign by the sidewalk read, Daniel Price, Attorney at Law. Inside the waiting room smelled like coffee and printer ink. Framed certificates lined one wall. A faded landscape painting hung on another. A small bowl of cheap candy sat on the table. The receptionist smiled when I gave my name. Mr. Price will be with you shortly, she said. Would you like water or coffee? Water, please, I answered. My throat felt dry. A few minutes later, a man in his 50s stepped into the room. Gray at the temples, no tie, a cardigan instead of a suit jacket. Ms. Simone, he said. I am Daniel. Please come in. His office was cluttered but orderly. Stacks of files, a big wooden desk books with titles about property and families. A plant drooped in the corner, refusing to give up. I sat in the chair across from him and set my tote bag down. My fingers tightened on the handles for a second. What brings you here today? He asked gently. I took out the villa folder and my notebook. I placed them on his desk like evidence. I bought a villa with my daughter and her husband. I began. I paid the down payment and most repairs. My name is on the deed. I took a breath. Yesterday, she sent a message saying I'm not welcome at Thanksgiving anymore. From now on, do not come. I expected a reaction, but his face stayed neutral. He nodded slowly and opened the folder. Let us start with the documents, he said. Emotions matter, but paperwork tells the court what is real. He read the deed first. His finger traced the lines with the names. He nodded. You are a joint owner, he said. Your name is right here on the title alongside theirs. He looked up to make sure I understood. They cannot sell this property without your signature. They cannot refinance without you. He moved to the mortgage papers. He checked dates, amounts, and the lender. "Are you making any of these payments currently?" he asked. "No," I said. "I covered the down payment and most major expenses. They pay the monthly mortgage." He nodded again. "Good to know," he said. Then he pulled the property tax receipts from the folder. He compared them with my notebook. "This is you," he said, pointing at the payer name. "Yes," I answered. "The last 2 years." He added a few numbers on his own calculator. He made a small note on a yellow legal pad. Based on this, he said, a significant portion of the equity comes from your contributions. In plain language, a big share of the value is your money. He glanced at the repair invoices. Roof air conditioning, other work. All in my name. This strengthens your financial stake, he explained. Courts look at who paid, not just who. Smiles in family photos. He gently pushed his chair back and folded his hands. Here are the basics, he said. 1, you are a co-owner of the villa. That is not a favor. That is a legal fact. 2, from what I see, a large percentage of the equity was built with your funds. 3, you are not legally obligated to keep paying ongoing costs unless you signed a specific agreement saying you would. I shook my head. No agreement, I said. Only text messages where they asked for help. Then those were gifts or voluntary contributions, he said. You can stop at any time. Law does not force you to be their wallet. The sentence settled in my chest like a new kind of oxygen. I had never heard anyone say it that plainly. He leaned forward. Tell me about Thanksgiving, he said softly. I told him about the gas station, the message, the years of small slights. I described the sofa bed, the secondhand train set, the party introductions. I feel like a walking bank account, I finished. They like the money, but they are ashamed of the person who earned it. He did not rush to respond. He let the silence sit for a moment, respectful but not pitying. Many older clients come here with that exact feeling he said, used as long as they say yes, discarded the moment they say no. He drew a simple box on the legal pad. This is the villa, he said. Right now you all own it together. But you are the only one here today. He wrote 3 small names around the box. Mine, Amanda's, Brian's. From a legal perspective, you have options, he said. I will outline a few. You do not have to choose today. First, you can simply stop any non-essential financial help. Property taxes, repairs, extras. You are not required to keep covering those. If they want to keep the property, they can pay their share moving forward. Second, we can explore restructuring ownership to protect you better. For example, placing your share into a simple limited liability company with you as manager. Or we can use a basic living trust so your share follows your instructions if something happens to you. Third, we should update your will, he continued. Right now, if you left everything to your daughter, she would receive the share she already disrespects. You could decide instead to leave your share to a grandchild directly, or to charity, or to be sold and split in a way you choose. He put the pen down and looked at me directly. All of this is legal and ordinary, he said. You are not doing anything vindictive. You are setting boundaries with documents. I felt my shoulders drop a little, like I had been carrying something on top of the folder and finally set it down. What would this cost, I asked. Money had always been the gatekeeper. Less than another roof repair, he said with a small, kind smile. And unlike that, this repair protects you not just the house. He let that sink in. Then he asked a question that cut deeper than numbers. How do you want to be treated for the rest of your life? The room went quiet. I heard the faint hum of the heater and a car passing outside. I thought of long nights at the hospital, my husband's hands and my own aging face in the mirror. I thought of standing in the villa kitchen invisible with a dish towel. I thought of the Thanksgiving table where my chair had been erased by text. When I finally spoke, my voice surprised me. It was steady. Like a human being, I said, not like an ATM. Daniel nodded slowly. That is a reasonable request, he said. The law cannot make them love you. It can, however, stop them from draining you. He slid the folder back toward me and tapped it gently. If you decide to act, this is where we start, he said. Paperwork will speak louder than any argument you could ever have with them. On my way out, I scheduled a follow-up appointment for the following week. The receptionist wrote the date on a card and handed it to me. When I stepped outside, the air felt sharper but clearer. Nothing about my family had changed yet, but something in me had. As I walked to my car, I held the folder close against my chest. For the first time, it did not feel like a weight. It felt like armor. I decided from that day on to let the paperwork speak instead of my tears. The Monday after my meeting with Daniel, I took my notebook back to the kitchen table. The villa folder sat beside my coffee cup. The question he had asked refused to leave my mind. How do you want to be treated for the rest of your life? I opened the notebook to the page where I had listed every transfer. Then I turned to the blank page I had titled, From Tonight. I uncapped a red pen. In neat letters, I wrote a new heading. Monthly support, I will stop. The list formed itself. Property tax, homeowners insurance, internet, electricity top-ups, water bill, the extra payment on their credit card. Each item had once felt like love. Now they looked like slow leaks in my future. The first stop was the bank. I put on my coat and slipped my cards into my wallet. The air outside was thin and bright. At the branch, soft holiday music played near the entrance. Garlands hung over the teller windows. Someone had taped paper snowflakes to a printer. A young man at the reception desk greeted me. "Good morning, ma'am. How can we help you today? I need to review and change some automatic payments," I said. "And I want to cancel a couple of attached cards." He led me to a small desk with a computer terminal. "Jasmine will help you," he said. "She's great with this stuff." Jasmine looked barely older than Amanda had in college. She wore glasses with blue frames and a name badge with a tiny smiley sticker. "Hi, Ms. Simone," she said. "How are you today?" "I am ready to make a few changes," I answered. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. She pulled up my account on the screen. "Let us go through your automatic payments first," she said. "We can turn any of them off." I watched the list appear. Property tax for the villa, homeowners insurance, a recurring payment to the cable and internet company, another to the electric utility. "Are all of these for your home?" she asked. "No," I said. "They are for a property my daughter lives in. I have been covering them." She nodded without judgment. "Do you still want to pay them?" she asked gently. I took a breath. "No," I said. "Not automatically. Not anymore." She clicked a few keys. "We can cancel the automatic transfers today," she said. "If you ever want to pay a bill manually, you still can. Cancel all of them," I repeated. "All the villa ones." She confirmed each one aloud so I could hear it. Property tax, auto debit canceled. Homeowners insurance canceled. Cable and internet canceled. Electric utility auto pay canceled. Each confirmation landed like a small metal lock clicking shut. Not against someone else, but around my savings. Next came the cards. "I also have an additional card on my account," I said. "It is in my daughter's name." Jasmine pulled up the card section. "Yes, there is a secondary user card ending in 2843, she said, "linked to your main credit line." I remembered the day Amanda had called about that card. "Mom, emergencies happen," she had said. "It is safer if I have one in my name." "This card," I said now, pointing at the screen. "I want it closed. Not just frozen. Closed." Jasmine looked at me over her glasses. "Are you sure?" she asked. "If we close it, she will not be able to use it at all." "I am sure," I said. "If she needs credit, she and her husband can apply together." "Understood," Jasmine replied. She picked up the phone and spoke to another department. Her tone stayed kind but firm. "Yes, customer is primary holder," she said. "She authorizes closure of the authorized user card." After a few minutes, she hung up. "Done," she said. "The card is closed. No further transactions will go through." I exhaled slowly. My shoulders dropped an inch. The invisible weight I had carried for years shifted. She printed a confirmation sheet and slid it toward me. "These are for your records," she said. "Keep them with your other important documents." I tucked the paper into my tote bag beside the deed. Paperwork stacking like bricks. On my way out, I stopped at the ATM. Not to withdraw, but to check my balance. The screen showed a number that still felt fragile. I whispered a small promise to myself. This is staying with me as long as I can protect it. The next calls were to utility companies. I sat at my kitchen table, again, phone on speaker, notebook open. "Thank you for calling Coastal Electric," one cheerful voice said. "How can we assist you today?" "I need to remove my card from an account," I explained. I have been paying for a property that is not my primary residence. They asked for account numbers and security questions. I answered each carefully penned, tapping on paper. Once they verified my identity, the process was surprisingly simple. "We can stop your automatic payment immediately," the representative said. "Future bills will go directly to the main account holder." The internet company was similar. A young man with a bright laugh walked me through the steps. "Honestly, ma'am, more people should review their autopays," he said. "Sometimes they forget how much is leaving every month." "I forgot on purpose," I answered softly. He did not hear the whole story, but he understood enough. Within 2 days, every regular payment tied to the villa had been severed. The tap was not dripping anymore. It was shut. For a couple of weeks, there was silence. No messages from Amanda, no calls from Brian, just my own breath and the ticking clock. Then the notices began to reach them. Emails from the utility company, letters from the county tax office, alerts from the homeowners association. On a Wednesday afternoon, my phone finally rang. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. I considered letting it go to voicemail. Then I remembered Daniel's words about boundaries. I answered. Her voice came in hot, already raised. "Mom, what is going on with the villa bills?" "What do you mean?" I asked calmly. "We just got notices that the property tax is due and the auto pay failed," she said. "The electric bill is higher. The internet says payment declined." I listened to her list them as if they were natural disasters. Wind, rain, unpaid tax. "Did you change something?" she demanded. "Why did the bank say the card is no longer valid for the account?" I looked at my notebook. The page with monthly support, "I will stop," stared back at me. "Yes," I said. "I changed some things." "Why?" she snapped. "You know we are tight right now. This month is already insane." I kept my voice even. "Because I cannot afford to support the villa the way I have been," I said. "I have to protect my own future." There was a beat of silence, then a disbelieving laugh from her end. "So you just stopped?" she said. "No warning, nothing." "I warned myself for years," I said, quietly. "I am finally listening. These are not just your bills, Mom," she shot back. "This is the house where my son lives, where our family is building a life. It is also a house I co-own," I replied. "And for years I have carried more than my share." I could hear movement in the background. Brian's voice murmured something. Amanda covered the receiver for a second. She came back sharper. "You are being selfish," she said. "You are punishing us because of one text. You are sabotaging our family." The word selfish hung between us. Once it would have gutted me. Now it felt strangely light. "I am not sabotaging you," I said. "I am just stepping back from paying for everything. This is your home. These are your responsibilities. You know we cannot cover all this right now," she insisted. "You know that, and you are doing it anyway." I looked down at the notebook again. My red pen lay across the page like a small barrier. For a long time, I knew I could not keep going like this, I said. I did it anyway. That was my mistake. Her breathing grew louder through the phone. "So that is it," she said. "You are done helping. After everything we have been through, I will not be your automatic solution anymore," I answered. "If you need help, we can talk case by case. But I will not be your system." There was another pause. Then she delivered the line like a verdict. "You are selfish, Mom. You are destroying my family." The call clicked off before I could respond. The sudden silence in my kitchen rang louder than her accusation. I did not cry. I reached instead for my notebook. On the page titled "Monthly Support, I Will Stop," I drew a single red line. It crossed the entire phrase firm and straight. Then under it, I wrote a new sentence in blue ink. "Protecting myself is not cruelty. It is survival." I sat back and let the words settle into the paper. For the first time in my life, I chose to be selfish with other people so that I would not stay brutal with myself. A few months after I turned off the tap, the silence ended. It did not end with an apology. It ended with problems. The first sign came in the form of a forwarded email. Amanda sent it without a greeting, just a subject line. "Late fee notice." The Homeowners Association letterhead glared from my phone screen. "Your account is past due," it read. "Late fee has been added to the monthly assessment." I scrolled down. The address listed was the villa. The primary contact was Amanda, not me. 2 weeks later, a second email arrived. This time it was from the mortgage company. Interest rate adjustment effective next month. I knew that phrase. Variable rate moving upward. Monthly payments creeping higher like water under a door. Then came a text from Amanda. "Mom, the roof is leaking again," she wrote. "There is water in the upstairs hallway." I stared at the message and did not answer immediately. In the past, I would have called a contractor before finishing my coffee. Now I put the phone down and let it buzz. A few days after that, my phone rang while I was folding laundry. Amanda's name flashed on the screen. I answered on the third ring. Her voice sounded careful, almost rehearsed. "Mom, can you come to the villa this Saturday?" she asked. "We need to talk about some things. About the house," I said. "About everything," she replied. "We should do it in person." They did not invite me for holidays or birthdays anymore, only for talks when the numbers stopped adding up. On Saturday, I dressed simply and packed my tote bag. Inside it, I placed the copies Daniel had prepared. The deed, the tax receipts, the repair invoices, and my summary sheet. The drive to the coast felt different this time. I was not bringing food or wine. I was bringing evidence. When I turned onto the familiar street, the villa looked tired. Paint peeled a little near the trim. The front yard grass had brown patches. A small bucket sat near the front steps, catching water from a clogged gutter. The place still stood, but the neglect showed. Amanda opened the door before I knocked. Her smile was tight eyes rimmed with fatigue. "Hi, Mom," she said. "Thanks for coming." I stepped inside. The living room felt cluttered. Toys, mail, and unfolded laundry everywhere. A cartoon murmured from the television in the corner. Brian sat at the dining table laptop, open bills spread around like a fan. His jaw was clenched. His fingers tapped a pen against the wood. On the far side of the room, Brian's mother sat with a mug of tea. She did not stand up. Her eyes moved over me like I was an unexpected inspection. "Let us sit," Amanda said. Her hand brushed my arm, more guiding than welcoming. I took a chair at the end of the table. Brian and Amanda sat across from me side by side. His mother sat off to the side, but within clear range. Bills lay in a messy pile between us. Utility notices, HOA statements, the new mortgage adjustment letter. "We are really struggling with the villa costs right now," Amanda began. Her voice trembled slightly on the word struggling. Brian cut in quickly. "And a big part of that is because you stopped paying things you said you would cover," he said. I folded my hands in my lap. "I never signed anything promising lifelong support," I replied. "I helped because I wanted to, not because I had to." Amanda leaned forward. "Mom, you knew we built our budget around your help," she said. "You knew the auto pays were set. Then you just canceled everything." "You did not even warn us properly," Brian added. "We got hit with late fees and surprise bills." "You got notices in your own names, yes," I said. "That is how ownership works. Bills go to the people living in and using the property." Brian's mother snorted softly into her mug. "This is exactly why mixing money with older relatives is messy," she said. "So much drama when they change their minds." I ignored her for the moment. I looked at my daughter instead. "Amanda," I said gently, "when was the last time you texted me about something that was not money or childcare?" She blinked. "That is not fair," she said. "We are busy. Life is a lot." I reached into my tote bag and pulled out my own printout. According to my phone history, the last non-money message was a picture of your son's drawing. I said, "Almost a year ago." Her cheeks reddened. "That does not mean we do not love you," she said. "It just means we needed help." Brian's mother put her mug down with a soft thud. "This is being twisted," she said. "You offered to help. Now you are punishing them because you feel left out." She turned to me fully. "You always did like to play the victim," she added, bringing up every sacrifice as if no one else works hard. I felt the old reflex rise in my chest, the instinct to defend or apologize. Instead, I reached for the folder Daniel had organized. Calmly, I spread the documents on the table. First the deed, then the tax receipts, then the repair bills. "Let us be clear about the facts," I said. "This is the deed. My name is on it as co-owner." I tapped the paper. "I did not receive this as a gift from you," I added. "You received this house because I provided the down payment." I slid the tax receipts forward. These are the property tax payments for the last 2 years, I said, all paid from my account. Next came the roof and air conditioning invoices. And these are the big repairs, I continued. When water came in, I paid to keep the house dry. I opened my notebook to the summary page. The total I have put into this villa and your bills since purchase, I said, is this amount. I turned the notebook so they could see the number. Their eyes widened at the total. Amanda's hand flew to her mouth. Brian stared at the page silent. The number sat there simple and undeniable. This does not count the hours of childcare, I added. It does not count the groceries, the holidays, the rides, or my sleep. I looked at Amanda. For years, I accepted sleeping on your sofa, I said. I accepted being introduced as someone who helps, not as the owner who sacrificed. I took a breath. Then on Thanksgiving, you sent me a message, I said. My mother-in-law does not want you there, and from now on, please do not come anymore. Her eyes filled with tears. I did not mean it like that, she said weakly. It was a complicated situation. It was a clear sentence, I replied, and it landed on top of years of small erasures. Brian finally spoke. We never asked you to track every cent, he said defensively. You chose to do all this. You cannot guilt us with it now. His mother nodded vigorously. Exactly, she said. This is all so dramatic. Normal families do not keep ledgers like this. I met her gaze. Normal families do not erase who made the home possible, I said. Normal families do not bar the person who paid from the holiday table. She rolled her eyes. You are so theatrical, she said, always the martyr with the calculator. I straightened in my chair. My calculator kept this place from foreclosure more than once, I said. I am done apologizing for being responsible. I gathered the documents into a neat stack again. I left the deed copy on top facing them. If you have made it clear that I do not belong in this family, I said slowly, then my share of this asset does not belong parked here anymore either. Amanda's eyes widened. What does that mean? She asked. It means I am reviewing my options with my lawyer, I said. Not to hurt you, but to stop being used. Brian banged his fist lightly against the table. You would really take the house away from your own grandson, he said. You would do that over feelings. I am not taking his home away, I replied. I am taking my future back. How you respond is your choice. Brian's mother shook her head in disdain. Such an ungrateful older woman, she muttered, after everything we have welcomed her into. I looked around the room once more. The photos on the walls, the toys on the floor, the stains on the ceiling where water had seeped in. I slipped my copies of the documents back into the tote bag. The originals were safe with Daniel at his office. I will not discuss this further without counsel, I said calmly. If you want to talk about the villa, you can speak to my lawyer. Amanda stood up her chair, scraping against the floor. Mom, wait, she said. We can fix this. We can figure something out. Then start by acknowledging what is real, I said. Who paid? Who was erased? Who received that Thanksgiving text? She stayed silent. Brian stared at the table. His mother stared at me, unblinking. I pushed my chair back and stood. My knees ached, but my spine felt straight. At the door, I turned once more. For years, I played the kind mother who solved everything quietly, I said. That role ends today. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The sea air hit my face like a different season. As I walked down the path to my car, tote bag on my shoulder, one thought was painfully clear. That was the last time I ever walked out of that villa as the gentle mother. I did not hear from them for a few days after the confrontation. No apology, no follow-up, only silence and the distant sound of waves. I went back to my routine. Morning coffee, short walks, evenings with my notebook open and the villa folder nearby. Then Daniel called. His number flashed on my phone during a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Hi, Simone, he said. How are you holding up? I walked out of the villa, I answered. I put the documents on the table and left. Good, he said. Then you showed them you are serious. Now we decide your final move. I sat at my kitchen table, phone on speaker papers spread out. My pen waited over a blank page titled Next Steps. I told you about your options before he continued. We can refine them now. Option 1, he said. We formally offer them a chance to buy your share of the villa within a fixed time. We set a clear deadline. Fair price based on appraisal, not feelings. If they cannot or will not buy you out, we move toward a court-ordered sale. The property gets sold and the proceeds are split by ownership and contributions. Option 2, he went on. You sell your share to a third-party investor, someone who understands rental property. The villa becomes a rental house long-term or short-term, Airbnb monthly tenants, that sort of thing. If your daughter's family wants to stay, they sign a lease and pay rent like any tenant. I closed my eyes for a moment. Images flickered behind my eyelids. My grandson on the stairs, Amanda's face when she saw the total I had spent. What would you do in my place? I asked quietly. As a lawyer, I cannot tell you what to feel, he said, but as a son of an older mother, I will say this. Choose the option that gives you clean boundaries and the least ongoing drama. I thought about being my daughter's landlord, every late rent payment turning into another emotional storm, every repair call reopening old wounds. I do not want to be their landlord, I said. I want to be free. Then I suggest the buyout or sale route, he replied. We give them first opportunity. If they cannot follow through, we sell. He outlined the steps slowly in plain language. First, we get a current appraisal of the villa, he said. Not the fantasy number people use at dinner parties. A real one. Second, we calculate your share based on your joint ownership and documented contributions. Third, we send a formal letter by certified mail. It will offer them the chance to buy your share by a clear deadline. If they cannot or will not, the letter also explains that we will file to force a sale. Every step is legal, ordinary, and backed by your paperwork, he finished. I opened my eyes and stared at the sunlight on the table. No fireworks, no revenge speeches, just a process. Let us do it, I said. Send the letter. Within 2 weeks, an appraiser walked through the villa. I did not go. Daniel handled everything. He called me afterward. The appraised value is lower than online listings, higher than county tax, he said. In other words, realistic. He sent me the report. Numbers, photos, square footage, market comparisons. Nothing romantic. Then he drafted the letter. He read parts of it to me over the phone. Dear Miss Amanda and Mr. Brian, it began. This firm represents Simone in matters concerning the jointly owned property located at. It stated my percentage ownership. It listed the major contributions I had made. It named the appraised value and calculated a buyout figure for my share. The letter gave them 60 days to respond in writing. They could either agree to buy my share at that price or propose a different structure. It also stated plainly what would happen if they did nothing. If we do not receive a satisfactory response within 60 days, it read, our client instructs us to commence proceedings to sell the property and divide net proceeds accordingly. Daniel mailed it by certified mail. Return receipt requested. 1 copy to the villa, 1 to Brian's business address. Now we wait, he said, and we do not negotiate by wounded text messages, only by paper. The reaction came faster than I expected. 3 days after the delivery, my phone started buzzing. First, a call from Amanda. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was a mix of outrage and fear. Mom, what is this letter? She said. You cannot be serious. You are threatening to sell our home. Then texts. Rapid stacked scrolling. This is extreme. We are family. You are going to put your own grandson out on the street, I answered once carefully. I am following legal advice, I wrote. Any discussion about the property needs to go through my lawyer. She replied within seconds. So now we have to talk to you like strangers, she wrote. Like some corporation. I did not respond. I had spent years answering every emotional flare. This time, the paperwork would answer instead. A few days later, Brian called. I picked up on the second ring. Simone, he said without greeting. This letter is ridiculous. The number is too high, he continued. We cannot afford this. Interest rates are up. My business is tight. I understand things are tight, I said. I lived tight for decades. This number is based on an independent appraisal I added. It is not a punishment. It is math. You are forcing us into a corner, he insisted. You are using lawyers against your own daughter. I am using lawyers to protect myself, I replied. You are free to get your own. You know we cannot qualify for a larger loan right now, he said. You know that. Are you really going to push this? The letter explains the timeline and options, I said. If you have a proposal, send it through Daniel. His sigh blasted through the speaker. You have changed, he muttered. You used to be so supportive. I have been too supportive, I answered. That is why we are here. Weeks passed with scattered calls and messages, some accusatory, some pleading, none accompanied by a concrete plan. We are trying to refinance, Amanda texted once. Rates are bad, the bank is slow, give us more time. I forwarded the message to Daniel. He replied to their new lawyer directly. The deadline remained. As the 60th day approached, Daniel called me again. They have not secured financing, he said. They have not made a reasonable written proposal. What happens now, I asked. Now we move forward with the sale process, he answered. We will file, but often people agree to sell before the court needs to act. He was right. Faced with real paperwork instead of emotional leverage, they shifted. 2 weeks later, Daniel called with an update. Amanda and Brian met with their own attorney, he said. They have agreed to list the villa for sale. The proceeds will be divided according to the structure we prepared, he added. You will receive your share directly at closing. I sat very still. The words sank in slowly like warm water. So that is it, I said. The villa will go. Yes, he replied, and with it your financial tie to their choices. The listing process moved quickly. The market was cooler than before, but the location helped. Within a month, an offer came in at a fair price. We reviewed the numbers together in his office. After paying off the mortgage closing costs and fees, a final figure remained. My share was large enough to matter. The day of closing, I dressed carefully. Not fancy, just deliberate. I arrived at Daniel's office with my tote bag. Inside it were only my notebook and a small wallet. No casserole dishes, no toys. The conference room smelled like coffee and copier toner. Stacks of documents waited on the table. A notary sat at one end, pen ready. Amanda and Brian were not there. They signed their copies at a different time with their attorney. That had been Daniel's suggestion. Less drama, more signatures. He slid the pages toward me one by one. This is the settlement statement, he said. This is the release. This is the disbursement authorization. My hand did not shake as I signed. Years of signing for everyone else had trained it well. As I signed the final page, a sentence formed in my mind. I spoke it softly, more to myself than to anyone else. Years ago, I poured my whole working life into buying that villa for them, I said. Today, I am buying back my own remaining life by stepping out of it. Daniel looked up and gave a small nod. A fair trade, he said. The notary stamped the last page. The sound was crisp, final, like a gavel in miniature. A few days later, the funds from the sale landed in my account. I checked my balance at the kitchen table where I once listed debts. This time, the number did not make my stomach twist. It made my shoulders fall in relief. Amanda texted once more after the sale closed. You really did it, she wrote. I hope you are happy. I typed and deleted several answers. Then I chose the smallest truth. I am finally safe, I replied. She did not answer. Maybe she could not yet. I closed my banking app and set the phone down. The villa no longer tied my future to their choices. No one in that house on that Thanksgiving, when they cut me off, had imagined this outcome. They thought I would stay in the role of the quiet, generous mother forever. They never imagined the woman they pushed out of the dining room would be the one holding the sharpest knife of all, not a weapon of violence, a knife made of paper, deeds, statements, contracts, the kind of blade that does not draw blood but cuts ties clean. The villa sold in late spring. By summer, it was just another listing marked closed in an agent's folder. Life moved on, but not smoothly. Not for them, not for me. I heard about the changes in pieces, not from Amanda directly at first, but from whispers in the community. A neighbor from the coastal street saw me at the grocery store. He paused beside the bananas, shifting his basket. So I heard the house finally sold, he said. Nice family moving in, teachers, I think. Young kids. Good, I answered. I meant it. The villa deserved people who would not use it as a weapon. He lowered his voice as if the apples might listen. Your daughter and her husband moved into a smaller townhouse closer to town, he added. Nothing wrong with that, just different. Different. A softer word than reduced or downgraded. But we both knew what he meant. No more ocean view, no more long driveway for their cars. No more patio perfect for curated family photos. I later heard that Brian's mother had hosted a family brunch shortly after the sale. She had once bragged at that table about their side providing the home. This time, the whispers said she was quieter. The cousins noticed. One aunt reportedly asked, "I thought you all owned that villa outright." The story about how their side of the family had secured the house did not match the outcome. Faces change when pride is exposed in daylight. A few weeks after the sale closed, an email from Amanda appeared in my inbox. The subject line was simple: Mom. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. My finger hovered over the trackpad like it was a trigger. When I clicked, her words flooded the screen. Paragraph after paragraph. No greetings. No how are you. She wrote about the stress of moving, packing boxes with a toddler running around, paying off debts from the villa and scrambling for a new rental. She said they had found a townhouse with thin walls and no yard. He misses the garden, she wrote about her son. He keeps asking when we are going back to the beach house. Then the email turned sharper. You did not just protect yourself, she wrote. You destroyed the home we were building. You took away your grandson's stability, she continued. You made us look irresponsible in front of everyone. She accused me of choosing money over family. She said I had let a lawyer come between a mother and her child. You always said family comes first, she wrote. Now you made a legal document more important than Thanksgiving. There were small lines that stung more than the big accusations. You could have waited until we were in a better place, she wrote. You could have helped us stabilize before you pulled everything away. She ended with a sentence that sat like a stone. I do not know if I can ever forgive you for breaking our home, she wrote. I read the email 3 times. My chest tightened more with each pass. I did not answer that day. Instead, I closed the laptop and walked slowly around my apartment. Later that night, sleep would not come. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The shadows from streetlights crawled across the plaster. I got up and went to the small dresser where I kept photos. I opened the top drawer and pulled out a framed picture of my grandson. In it, he was 2 years old, sitting on the villa steps with a plastic bucket. His cheeks were round, his hair stuck up in soft waves. He had no idea who had paid for the stone beneath him. I traced the edge of the frame with my thumb. A question circled my mind, tight and painful. Did I go too far? I whispered. Did I become the bad mother? Guilt can arrive even when reason is sound. I knew I had protected myself, yet I still felt the old reflex. I thought of my own mother then. Her words had been simple when I left home at 18. Do not set yourself on fire to keep everyone else warm, she had said. Ignoring your own needs is not kindness. It is slow suicide. I had not listened for decades. Now reclaiming my own oxygen, it felt unfamiliar and harsh. The nights stayed restless for a while. I would wake at 3 a.m, mind replaying scenes from the villa. The beach light, the sofa bed, the Thanksgiving text. One afternoon, while checking the community board at the library, I saw a flyer. Support Circle for Older Adults, it read. Topics: boundaries, money, adult children, loneliness, starting over. The meeting was at the local community center on Thursdays. No fee, coffee and cookies provided. I folded the flyer and slipped it into my bag. That Thursday, I went. The community center smelled like floor polish and brewed coffee. A bulletin board displayed photos of Tai Chi classes and knitting circles. In a small room off the main hall, about a dozen people sat in a circle, some in comfortable shoes and cardigans. One man in a faded work jacket. A woman in her 60s with silver braids facilitated the group. Her name was Karen. She smiled as I entered. "Welcome," she said. "Grab a seat anywhere. We are just sharing today." I chose a chair near the back. I wrapped my hands around a paper cup of coffee, letting the heat ground me. People took turns speaking. No one interrupted. No one rushed anyone else. One man shared how his son had convinced him to co-sign a car loan. The son stopped making payments. The father's credit took the damage. A woman in a floral blouse described paying her daughter's rent for 5 years. When I finally said no, she said she told me I was abandoning her. Heads nodded around the circle. There were tired laughs, soft sighs, and a few quiet tears. When it was my turn, I hesitated. Words felt heavy. I helped my daughter and her husband buy a villa, I said. I paid the down payment, the taxes, the big repairs. I told them about the sofa, the erased introductions, the Thanksgiving text. I explained how I had gone to a lawyer and sold my share. I feel safer now, I admitted. But sometimes alone at night, I wonder if I broke my own family. Silence followed. Not the cold kind from the villa, a listening kind. An older man with a cane cleared his throat. "I have 3 sons," he said. "One talks to me only when he needs money. Another only when he wants my pickup truck." He tapped his cane lightly against the floor. "Last year I stopped lending both," he said. "They called me selfish, too." He looked directly at me. "I felt guilty for months," he added. "Then my therapist said something that changed everything." Karen nodded. "Share it," she said. He took a breath. "Protecting your assets and your boundaries is not revenge," he recited. "It is teaching other people to carry the weight of their own choices." The words landed deep in my chest, like someone had opened a window I did not know was painted shut. He continued, "You did not take their responsibilities," he said. "They handed them to you and called it love. You picked them up and called it duty." He gave a small shrug. "Putting those responsibilities back where they belong is not punishment," he said. "It is honesty." Something inside me loosened. My shoulders eased, my jaw unclenched. I realized then that I had not broken their home. I had refused to keep holding up a roof. They refused to help support. On my way out of the community center, Karen touched my arm. "You looked lighter when he said that sentence," she observed. "Did it resonate?" "It did," I said. "I have been calling it revenge in my own head even while denying it aloud." She smiled gently. "Words matter," she said. "Sometimes changing the word changes the weight you carry." At home that evening, I opened my notebook again. On a new page, I wrote the sentence from the group. "Protecting your assets and boundaries is not revenge. It is returning responsibility to its rightful owner." I looked at the words for a long time. Then I underlined returning responsibility. My phone lay silent on the table. No new messages, no apologies. For years, my silence had meant surrender. I stayed quiet to keep the peace, even when it cost me. Now the quiet felt different. I was not reaching out to fix everything. I was not composing long explanations. I was simply not engaging in the old pattern. For the first time in many years, my silence was not a sign of giving up. It was a border, a clear line between what belonged to me and what did not. For the first time, after many noisy, draining years, the quiet around me did not feel like punishment. It felt like a boundary. 1 year later, Thanksgiving arrived again. No villa this time. No long driveway, no ocean view that did not really belong to me. Instead, I woke up in my own small apartment. The rent was reasonable. The walls were thin but honest. Every bill in my name only. Sunlight slipped through the blinds and painted lines across my kitchen table, the same table where I had once spread bank statements and legal documents. Today it held a short grocery list and a small bouquet. I brewed coffee and watched the steam rise. There was no bitter knot in my stomach this time, just a quiet awareness of the date. Last Thanksgiving, my phone had delivered a message that cut me off. This year, it lay face down on the counter, not in defiance, just not in control. I had invited a few people over, no one from the old villa crowd, a different circle. There was Mrs. Johnson from down the hall, a widow with sharp eyes and soft hands. She baked cornbread that could make you forget bad news for a few minutes. There was Arturo from the community center, retired electrician, who told the funniest stories about job sites. He took the bus everywhere and knew all the drivers by name. And there was a young couple, Maya and Chris. I had met them years ago when they hired me to babysit their daughter. They still called me Miss Simone even after their child outgrew naps. They had insisted on bringing dessert. "We owe you at least 3 pies for those nights you saved us," Maya had said. I spent the morning cooking in my small kitchen. A modest turkey breast in a roasting pan, mashed potatoes in a dented pot, green beans with garlic and lemon, the apartment filled with the smell of herbs and butter. I put on soft music, not the blaring football commentary from the old days. At noon, someone knocked. 3 quick taps, 1 pause, then 2 more. Mrs. Johnson's signature knock. She came in carrying a warm pan covered with a towel. "Cornbread," she announced, "and a little cranberry relish. I have the sugar now. We are not children." We laughed and set everything on the table. Soon after, Arturo arrived with a bag of plantains and a bottle of sparkling juice. "I do not drink anymore," he said, "but bubbles still feel like celebration." Maya and Chris came last, slightly out of breath, their daughter racing ahead. She was 10 now, taller than the last time I saw her. She handed me a drawing. 3 people and a table. "Us with you," she said proudly. We ate without ceremony. No carved speeches, no toasts about who provided the house. We just passed dishes, told stories, and laughed at things that had nothing to do with money. When someone complimented the turkey, I said thank you and believed it. At one point, Maya looked around the apartment and smiled. "This place feels warm," she said. "Not fancy, just safe. Safe." That word meant more to me now than luxury ever had. After dessert, as the others argued over who would wash dishes, I slipped into the small hallway for a moment. My phone buzzed on the dresser. I picked it up and saw a new message from Amanda. My heart gave a small, involuntary twist. Her text was longer than usual, words stretched into careful sentences. "Mom, I am sorry for last year it began. I was angry and scared, and I blamed you for everything." She wrote about the move to the townhouse, about learning how much utilities really cost, about arguing with Brian over budgets instead of blaming me. "I still wish things had happened differently," she admitted, "but I'm starting to understand why you did what you did." Then came the line that stung and soothed at the same time. "Can we talk someday?" she asked. "Not about money. About us." I leaned against the wall phone, warm in my hand. A year ago, I would have rushed to answer. I would have driven over, ready to fix everything. Now I knew better. "Repair without respect is just repainting rotten wood," I typed slowly. "When you are ready to talk with respect," I wrote, "my door is open." It was the most honest invitation I had ever given her. I hit send and set the phone face down again. I did not know if she would answer tonight, next month, or next year. I did not build an entire fantasy on one text. I walked back to the living room. Arturo was teaching the little girl a card trick. Johnson was scolding Maya for trying to wash all the dishes alone. "Let the young man do something," she said, pointing at Chris with the dish towel. "We are not raising decorative husbands in this room." The whole table burst into laughter. I laughed too, from my chest, not from obligation. Later, when everyone left, I stood at the sink in my small kitchen. Warm water ran over plates and glasses. The window above the sink showed a strip of evening sky. No ocean, no villa lights, no showpiece patio, just a narrow view of other apartment windows and a fire escape. It was not glamorous, but it was mine. Every dish I washed belonged to a meal I had chosen and hosted. No one could ask me to leave this table by text. No one could tell me I did not belong in my own home. As I rinsed the last glass, I thought about everything this past year had taught me. I had learned that older people need more than love. We need information. We need to understand the laws that govern our names on paper. We need to know what co-ownership really means, what signatures commit us to, what we are allowed to say no to. I had learned that loving your children does not mean funding their every mistake. It does not mean allowing them to speak to you like a service, not a person. You can love a child and still refuse to be their unpaid safety net forever. You can hold a baby in your arms and still hold on to your own future. And I had learned that sometimes taking back your power is not loud at all. It is not screaming. It is not slamming doors. Sometimes power looks like canceling an automatic payment. It looks like hiring a lawyer and reading every line twice. It looks like choosing peace over access. Stopping payments to people who belittle you is not cruelty. It is clarity. As I stacked the clean dishes in the rack, I felt an unfamiliar steadiness. The anxiety that used to follow me from bill to bill had loosened its grip. I looked around my small kitchen, the stove that worked when I turned it on, the fridge that hummed like a reliable friend. Everything in that room was within my means. Everything had been chosen with open eyes. No one could evict me with a cruel message on a holiday. No one could pretend my sacrifices were theirs to brag about. Children's laughter floated in from the hallway. The neighbors' grandkids had arrived for their own visit. Their giggles leaked under the door like bright air. I listened and smiled. I did not feel a sharp longing anymore, only a gentle ache and a deep, settled peace. I did not have my grandson that night. I had no guarantee I ever would, but I had myself, my dignity, my boundaries, my bank account under my own control, and I had a table that would always hold at least one chair for me. If you are listening to this and see parts of your story in mine, know this. It is never too late to learn how your money works. It is never too late to say no to disrespect, even from your own children. It is never too late to stop paying for people who treat you like an ATM. Your love has value beyond your wallet. Your presence is more than the bills you cover. If you have ever been cut off from a table you helped build, I hope my story reminds you of this. You are allowed to build a new one. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tell us in the comments where you are listening from and what chapter of life you are in. And if you believe, like I do, that it is never too late to take back your power, subscribe to this channel. We are building a place where older hearts are not background characters, but the main story. Tonight I turned off the kitchen light and walked to my bedroom. The apartment was quiet, not empty, just held by my own two hands. For the first time in a long time, I went to sleep knowing one simple truth. My life in all its smallness and strength finally belonged to me again.